There's a quiet fear that settles into many hearts as people grow older, a fear that rarely gets spoken aloud. It does not shout. It does not demand recognition. It hides in pauses between conversations and in the silence after visitors leave. It reveals itself only in small moments. A hesitant request, a whispered apology, a soft decline of help even when help is needed. It is the fear of becoming a burden. This fear is not dramatic. It does not erupt like a crisis. Instead, it sits within the mind like an unwelcome guest, reminding older people that every request might feel like an inconvenience to others. It shapes the way they speak, the way they ask, even the way they think about themselves. And it often grows stronger as time passes. The fear is not rooted only in physical decline. It rises from a gradual change in roles. People who once provided care now need care. People who once carried others now rely on others. People who once led their families now feel themselves stepping aside so younger generations can take on responsibilities. And while this shift is natural, it can also feel like a quiet erasure of identity. Imagine someone who spent decades supporting a household, making decisions, contributing to others, moving through life with purpose and competence. That same person might now hesitate before asking for a ride to the clinic. They might apologize for needing help with simple tasks. They might avoid mentioning discomfort or pain because they do not want anyone to rearrange their day. The fear changes their voice. It changes their choices. Sometimes it even changes their health. Older people often hold back from expressing their needs because they believe others already carry too much. They see their children juggling careers, raising families, managing finances, rushing through busy days. They see younger relatives exhausted, stressed, stretched thin, and they worry that adding their own needs to the pile will cause strain. So they remain quiet. They stay home instead of asking for company. They endure discomfort instead of requesting assistance. Silence becomes a way of protecting others, even when silence also hurts them. There is a particular sorrow in feeling like an obligation. It is not just sadness. It is a blend of guilt and humility and longing. A longing to still feel useful. A longing to still contribute. A longing to still be seen as capable rather than dependent. Many older people speak in phrases that reveal their inner world. I do not want to bother you. I know you are busy. You do not have to help me. I can manage. These words are not signs of independence alone. They are often signs of fear. Fear of causing inconvenience. Fear of being seen differently. Fear of disappointing those they love. And beneath that fear lies another truth. Older adults often know that their abilities are changing. They feel the shift in strength. They notice the slower pace. They recognize the limits appearing where none existed before. And they grieve the loss of ease. But what troubles them even more is the thought that others might worry about them, might feel pressured by them, might see them as responsibility instead of family. This emotional weight can be heavy. It can create isolation. People withdraw to avoid appearing needy. They minimize symptoms. They downplay struggles. They pretend to remember things they forgot. They push their bodies further than they should, because asking for help feels harder than enduring pain. There is also the fear of financial burden. Older people know that healthcare costs rise. They know that medication, appointments, equipment, and home assistance are expensive. They see younger generations navigating high living costs and economic pressure. And they fear that their needs will create strain. Even if their loved ones reassure them, the fear often lingers. For some, the fear becomes strongest when mobility declines. They worry that someone will have to drive them everywhere. They worry that someone will need to accompany them to appointments. They worry that falls or illness will place heavy responsibilities on others. Every change step becomes a reminder of what might lie ahead. There is also the fear of emotional burden. Older people do not want to be the source of worry. They do not want younger relatives to lie awake at night thinking about their health. They do not want their children to feel torn between caregiving and their own families. They do not want anyone to resent them. And even if that resentment never exists, the fear of it can be powerful. This fear often comes from a place of love. They are not afraid of dependency itself. They are afraid that dependency will cause pain to the people they care about. Many older adults also carry memories of watching their own parents decline. They remember the fatigue, the stress, the emotional weight that caregiving can bring. They remember tensions and sacrifices, and they quietly hope not to put anyone through the same experience. The past becomes a shadow over the present. Another fear is that becoming a burden might change the way others see them. They do not want to be viewed as fragile. They do not want their opinions dismissed. They do not want conversation to shift into caretaking routines instead of genuine connection. They want to remain part of life, not part of a to-do list. Inside every older person is a self that remembers strength, a self that remembers leadership, a self that remembers competence. And when the body challenges that identity, fear often rises. There is also the fear of losing dignity. Asking for help with dressing, bathing, or personal care can feel deeply vulnerable. These tasks, once automatic, now require trust. And trust becomes complicated when fear whispers that needing help is the same as being a burden. Yet the deepest part of this fear is not about tasks or time. It is about belonging. People fear becoming a burden because they fear losing connection. They fear that needing too much might push others away. They fear that their presence might create strain rather than comfort. They fear that love might feel heavier than it once did. And still, beneath this fear lies beauty. Older people carry wisdom, perspective, steadiness, memory, and resilience. They have lived long enough to understand what matters and what does not. They have survived heartbreak and celebrated joy. They have built families, friendships, communities, and histories. They have contributed in ways that cannot be measured. Their fear does not diminish their worth. If anything, it reveals how deeply they care about the well-being of others. What hurts them is not the loss of independence. It is the loss of feeling that their presence brings value. They want to help, to guide, to share stories, to give advice, to contribute to the emotional fabric of the family. They want to matter as much for who they are now as they once mattered for what they could do. And yet, many older people do not realize how much they still offer. They underestimate the comfort of their wisdom. They overlook the significance of their stories. They forget that presence itself can be a gift. Families often draw strength from the very people who fear they are burdens. There is a healing power in recognition. When older people feel included, consulted, listened to, and valued, the fear softens. When someone asks for their opinion, the fear quiets. When someone invites their stories, the fear loosens. When someone expresses gratitude for their earlier sacrifices, the fear dissolves. When someone shows up simply to spend time with them, the fear fades. One of the most compassionate things we can do is reassure older people not only with words, but with consistent actions. To show, not merely say, that they are not burdens, that their presence is wanted, that their stories are treasured, that their needs are legitimate, that their lives continue to shape the lives around them. Sometimes what they need is not reassurance, but partnership. Inviting them to participate rather than sit aside. Including them in decisions rather than making choices for them. Asking what they prefer rather than assuming. These small gestures can restore dignity and ease the silent fear. The fear of becoming a burden does not need to be contradicted. It needs to be understood. Older people do not seek pity. They seek respect. They seek presence. They seek connection that feels mutual rather than one-sided. When we treat them as whole people rather than fragile dependents, we honor the life they have lived and the life they still carry within. The truth is simple. The fear of becoming a burden is actually the fear of losing love. It is the fear of being more trouble than treasure. It is the fear of taking more than giving. It is the fear of love becoming strained rather than shared. Yet love does not calculate worth. Love does not measure tasks. Love does not resent care. Love remembers history. Love honors contribution. Love sees the person, not the need. And when older people feel that love, truly feel it, the fear slowly transforms. It becomes trust. It becomes gratitude. It becomes peace. Because the deepest comfort anyone can offer is this. You are not a burden. You are a part of us. You belong with us. Your presence is not weight. Your presence is value. And sometimes all it takes is a gentle question, a shared moment, a sincere thank you, a listening ear. These small acts remind older people of something essential. Their lives are still meaningful. Their stories are still needed. And their existence is still a blessing, not a burden.